So since it's been more than 2 years that I'm running the YouTube channel, I realized that a lot of you, while you're following my journey, not many of you really know my background or especially my martial arts background. So in this video, I wanted to include you and to just tell a bit about what I went through, what I experienced, so you would have a feeling for where I'm coming from. Just before I begin, a quick announcement. I know some of you are already starting to miss some practical applications, some practical videos where I practice and not just talk. Don't worry about that, that's going to come soon. In March 9th to 13th, I'm going to go to England, to Leeds, to train with an acquaintance of mine who's going to help me purify and see what works in Aikido, what doesn't, and we're going to film that whole process. So a lot of videos will come from there. Also, I've connected to Dan the Wolfman. We're going to do some talking with him, but also we'll include some of his videos. Well, don't worry about it, practical stuff will come. Now, to begin with, a lot of people are not really clear about my age. So right now I'm 28 years old, which is, I know it's young, but at the same time, I was always eager. I never wanted to waste time. I always pushed the barrier. So I think that gives me an edge to having achieved quite some experience, gathered quite some experience despite the young age. Which leads me to say that I started Aikido in 2004, which sums up my training up to almost 14 years, so pretty much half of my life. That's a funny quote I like to say sometimes. The first dojo that I went to was what people like to call Aikikai dojo, but oftentimes what they really mean is a Hombu dojo, the traditional Aikido center of the world. It sends some Shihans, some experienced people, to support various dojos. So this dojo was related to that Hombu center, which has a kind of a specific Aikido style, very circular, very round, very aesthetic, which is not perfect for the theme we're looking at right now, but that was my beginning. Despite that, my first instructor, he was very much eager to give us hardcore Aikido. So there were some punches, including a lot of resistance to each other in terms of training. When you train, it was okay to resist and not allow another person to do the technique. We would do some Kyokushin style training, running on each other's bellies and doing a lot of push-ups and sit-ups and etc., which was not necessarily so much Aikido for me, but I did get my taste of what people like to call traditional Aikido, because it was very, very specific. There were things you can do and things you cannot do. There was the right way to do it and there was the wrong way to do it. And also the topic of our school is doing it right, other schools are doing it wrong was there. So I got exposed quite a bit to the dark side of Aikido. Of course, I'm very, very grateful to my first instructor. He brought me into Aikido. He introduced me both Aikido's philosophy and training. And despite of my introduction to the dark side of Aikido as much, that was the first step that I got of learning Aikido. I really went straight into it. I really devoted myself to training. Back then I was a teenager, but I also went to adults trainings. I also went to the kids training. I trained during my free time. I just trained and trained and trained. I was really crazy about it, and that led me to realizing that I want to connect Aikido to my whole life, as a profession. Now, when I realized that I wanted to devote myself to martial arts in general too, I did train some Wing Chun in the meantime. I was exposed to some karate, to some kendo, but now as I look back, it was still very traditional martial arts, so it didn't really give me an extra edge. But nevertheless, when I realized that I want to really become professional in Aikido, I decided to go to become an uchideshi, it's a living program where you live in the dojo and you train all the time. And the first time it happened was in 2008. That's the time when I moved to Switzerland, to my former Aikido instructor, Patrick Asti Sensei, who's a 6th Dan in Aikido. He also belongs to the Aikikai organization, although he comes from a very well-known Aikido instructor called Morihiro Saito Sensei, one of the key members of Aikido. He trained there with him for about 6 or 7 years in Japan. My former sensei also trained with various senseis from all over the world, very well-known names like Nishio Sensei and all the top guys. So he was very experienced. He had a lot of good technical background, because Iwama style, the Saito Sensei style, was very much about techniques. So my sensei, he was powerful in techniques, but also he had his own unique take on Aikido. He brought a lot of attention into the philosophical aspect or lifestyle aspect of Aikido, to which I'm grateful ever since, because he showed me how Aikido can relate and translate to everyday life. and that gave me an understanding of how Aikido can support people not only as a martial art but as a certain way of lifestyle, and it can really open up people, it can really enhance their capabilities in all their life aspect. So that exposure to that type of Aikido was very useful to me, that it was both technical and it was both also, let's say, philosophical. As an Uchideshi, I spent in the dojo almost 3 years, so meaning I lived there all the time, I trained there all the time. I was training about 12 to 15 times per week. A lot of different senseis were coming from the whole world teaching seminars, so I got exposed to a lot of different styles, schools, top-notch Aikido instructors. I also traveled around, did some seminars. In the meantime, I met Miles Kessler Sensei, also a high-level Aikido instructor who you might know, and we're still in contact with him. So I met a lot of top Aikido instructors, went to different seminars, trained a lot, met a lot of Aikido people. Since the Uchideshi program was international, a lot of people would fly in from the whole world, from different styles, different levels of experiences, and we talked a lot with them, we trained a lot with them. So I really got a sense of the variety of Aikido and the whole image of where Aikido is. In the meantime, I was also training yoga and meditation, and so thus I became a yoga and meditation instructor, which is part of my profession right now. And eventually in 2012, the beginning of 2012, I was blessed by my sensei to open up my own dojo. So I moved to my country, to Cholet, the city of Cholet, thus Aikido Cholet, as terrible name as it is. That's the city I live in, and that's the main place where I run the dojo. So I opened a successful dojo, which is running now for 6 years. That gave me a lot of experience. I invited a lot of different instructors, trained with them, traveled to some other seminars in the meantime as well. And also just teaching classes gave me a good understanding of what Aikido is. And doing it professionally, that means I'm always spending my mind and time with it. And as I mentioned, it's been now 6 years that I'm doing that. Now, just one of the last things which is important in my martial arts background that I have to mention, that in, I think it was 2013, when I met a NATO soldier who was stationed in Cholet. He's from US, although he lived in Germany back then. He was into BJJ and he introduced me to BJJ, and we started exchanging. I showed him some Aikido, he showed me some BJJ. Thus we went into rolling. He taught me some techniques, but mainly we were just rolling and rolling and rolling together, quote unquote sparring in BJJ. And we did it for about a half a year, quite intensively. So I got exposed to BJJ and we talked a lot about it. So I learned about the whole prospect of how BJJ works, what it is, I got my taste of the modern combat arts. And with it also, I knew already by then that Aikido is not very efficient. I was very clear about that. I would tell that to my students. I knew that myself, but BJJ proved it even more so. It started opening my eyes to realizing that combat martial arts are not bad. And that Aikido is missing something, that something can be changed. Being inspired by BJJ so much, I also even went to visit my friend in Germany in the NATO base. I visited his gym where he trains BJJ, so I saw how a BJJ gym looks for the first time. But eventually my former sensei wasn't so happy that I became so enthusiastic about BJJ, also because I was inviting my friend to teach sometimes BJJ to my group, and my former sensei saw that as a bad thing. Also, he wasn't happy that I wanted to do competition, so that's where I was influenced by him and I decided to stop BJJ for that moment, which I regret ever since, but that happened, so that's that. But then in 2016 I started my YouTube channel, and eventually in 2017 I filmed the famous Aikido versus MMA video, which I knew what the outcome is going to be in that video. But the response that I received from the Aikido community online, seeing so many people upset about the fact that I did it, and realizing how delusional a lot of the Aikido world is, that pushed me into searching for more answers, to which I'm searching for right now. So what Aikido is, how can Aikido be improved, and etc. So I started digging into that topic, and eventually in the second half of 2017, in August, I started training mainly BJJ, but also I went into some MMA classes. So I got some of the basics down there. I did a couple of competitions of BJJ, which you can see the videos of. And although in 2018, in the beginning of 2018, I did a break, so now I'm not training BJJ regularly, just because there's so much to do and so many things. But now my whole dedication, my whole attention is into doing what I will do very soon. I'm planning to travel to some of the best masters around the world, some of the experienced people who have a lot of experience in the questions that in the skills that I'm missing, and I want to train with them, figure out with them what Aikido is missing, how Aikido can be improved, and I'm planning to get my experience from hopefully the best people out there. So this is a short summary of my Aikido background, how it worked, what I experienced, and maybe that gives you a better understanding of where I come from and what skills I have in my skill set. But all in all, I'll leave the video here. As always, if you want to support this project, if you want to support this channel, check the Patreon page right here. Click on it and you'll see what rewards you can get for supporting it, how you can become included in the process. But besides that, your comments, your likes are always appreciated. If you share the video, if you feel inspired to share the video, feel free to do that as all the time. And right now I'm going to leave you here with it, and I'll see you on the virtual mat again soon.